What's up everybody, my name is Sho. Welcome back to my channel. So, let's talk about the voices in our head today. The voices in our head, yes. If you've clicked on this video, maybe you have a curiosity as to how we identify, can see, become aware of, know, connect to, and then move beyond the different characters and voices in our head. The first thing that I want to say is that this is normal. Like, it's normal. I think a lot of people might not even allow themselves to be aware that they will have likely different types of voices in their head. Right? Now, when I say different types of voices, what do I mean? I don't necessarily mean you hear the voices in different tones, vocalizations, languages, abrasions, different emotions. Although you might, right? I don't hear the voices in my head. But what I can notice is the different types of the way that I talk to myself. Does that make sense? It's a very subtle difference here. It's like we don't have to be scared of knowing that we have different facets or aspects of that which we are and who we are. And learning to identify them helps us better relate to ourselves, right? If we know somebody's name, we have a better relationship with them. If we don't know their name, there's always going to be a bit of a distance between between us. Whereas in our head, we do have different voices. Now, ultimately, at its core, there are, let's say, two voices. The voice of the mind and the voice of the heart. Right? We could simplify it by saying that. And when we are playing out stories in our head, most of the time it's the story of the mind. And the story of the heart, the heart that speaks, is usually much subtler. It's very subtle, intuitive, like this thing. Right. But usually we'll have many different voices. Maybe there's one particular story or voice that plays out resentment in your life, and every now and then, every day, every few days, every few weeks, you might be playing out that story of resentment about that thing that happened to you when you were younger. And that story is still playing out, and it's like 20 years later, and you're still playing out the story. And that means that that story and the energetic strand behind it at some point has got stuck in your system, and you haven't yet felt what's really behind that character. Because each of the characters don't just express a thought, right? It expresses a strand of energy, of emotion, right? That's got caught up in your field, and you haven't yet learned to release it. When you learn to be with that particular reoccurring character or story, right? Then, and like bring it out into the world in some way, whether that's a diary, or whether that's expressive theatre, or whether that's writing a song, or whether that's talking about it with a therapist, it doesn't matter. The point is, when you allow it to come out and through you, then that repeating character or story gets to dissolve. It's a very subtle world that we're dealing with here. Right? So sometimes it's not always immediately apparent that you've done or released the thing until next time when you would expect that story or that character to play out again, and suddenly that character's like a little bit more chill. Like he or she isn't quite as aggressive as before in that story. It feels a bit lighter, there's more space. That's when you then start to identify and know that, oh wow, that releasing did work. It's not as bad now when I think about that story. So this is the character. So we have different characters in our mind. Sometimes we might have that resentment character. He's playing out that story from the past. That character of anger, being angry at ourselves for not being good enough. Right? Our perfectionism character. The guy in us that, or the girl in us that always wants to be better, perfect, right, good, wants to please mommy or daddy. You know, that's a popular character in our world today, pleasing mommy or daddy, right? Getting validation from others, making sure that, like, you know, you're seen in a certain way, and you exist there, you get there, and you be there for that person in the way that they expect you to be. So many of us are still intertwined with needing and wanting mommy or daddy's validation. That's a character. It's a character that we're playing out in the way that that got caught up in us, stuck in us when we were younger. It got caught up in us, stuck in us when we were younger, and we're still playing out that same kind of patterning of behaviour that we did when we were kids, because we wanted mommy and daddy's validation. Much of the world is still playing that stuff out in everyday life. And then we start seeing the patriarchal systems of our society as father, which then opens up a whole nother can of BS. Because we think then the father's outside of us in the systems. The father is outside of us, right? So in the Catholic and Christian terms, it's like that is the father, the God is outside of us. No, it's not outside of us. Everything is inside of you. Everything is inside of you. Yes. So we have all these characters. And so how do we start identifying them deeper? Well, we can put labels on them. So this week, if you choose to participate in this experiment with me, I'd love for you to explore, like, what particular character do you notice in your mind on a regular basis? And it's usually a character which is like the downer, right? The negative, the annoying one, the frustrated one, the angry one, the sad one. What for you? What is the character? What is the main character that's playing out? Do you have one? Maybe you don't have any, and you're like a computer, and you're emotionless, because much of the world these days are so obsessed with technology that maybe you don't know what feelings are and emotions are, and you're just a thinking robot, and that's how I live my life. That's what a lot of the world is like right now, too. And we're just sedating the whole world with like ADHD medicine, anxiety medicine, and that way nobody needs to feel anything. We can just sedate the world. I'm joking, it's absurd what we're doing. Life is found in feeling that which we are, which is energy beyond matter. And if we can notice that we are energy beyond the matter, which is energy itself, I guess, as in anyway, but if we can feel ourselves beyond just the material, physical, matter-based world, see that we're energy, we realize that actually, it doesn't have to be so difficult and hard, because everything is really that transient, and everything is always changing and moving. And it's only the mind that holds on. And acting, seeing, playing with, observing the characters is a way to notice where we are holding on to certain ways of living, because the characters that we have inside of us together create your round table of that which the king is, right? Because the king isn't just the king is the sum of his round table of characters that he chooses to put there. So have you actively chosen to create these characters in your unconscious, or are they just playing out from your life, from your traumas and behaviours and patterns, from mom and dad, from your friends, from your family? Do you want to create the characters for your round table so that you can sit as the queen or king? So this is what we get to do in character work, in exploring the inner voices. So start exploring your inner voices. That's my challenge to you. What kind of voices do you have in your head? And how subtly different are they? And do you want to put a name to some of them? Oh, that's the angry little boy. Okay, that's the angry little boy. That was Derek. That's Derek. Or maybe Sandra. Maybe Sandra's in there. She's like the whiny little girl. She's the whiny little girl that's not getting what she wants. maybe that kind of character plays out on you on a regular basis, and then like you react into the world like with unconscious, dark, feminine sort of behavior, which doesn't feel very pure and light. Sometimes gets you what you want, but also plays into the shadow in others and cause disturbances in relationships. Right? Maybe there's another character in there that, maybe there's a character in there that's really quite sad, and when sadness comes up, no, I don't want to feel the sadness. I don't do sadness. No, I'm better than that. Sadness isn't real. Right? Maybe there's a sad little boy or girl in there as well that never managed to feel accepted in their grief. Right? Never managed to feel accepted in the grief, because it's sad when we have to let go of things, whether it's people, places, toys. We need to grieve. It's like a part of us leaves us, and oftentimes we haven't been given the time or the opportunity to grieve and to let go of some of these things in our life, because our caregivers maybe didn't appreciate the depth of our sensitivity as the younger generation, or maybe the space wasn't held, right? The space wasn't held for you to feel safe in your sadness or grief, and so that character of sadness thinks that it's still not safe to feel sadness. That character, whatever name you want to put on this character. For some reason I was trying to think of a gender neutral name, because I've got a boy, a girl, I should include a gender neutral name too, and I couldn't think of one off the top of my head. So yeah, anyway, so this is another one, grief. So we're allowed to feel these things, and the characters are often a clue to certain traumas or emotions that we've got stuck with in our adult life. So start identifying the characters, guys. Have an exploration. Write down some names for your characters. Oh, I've definitely got that character in me. Yeah. And start playing with him or her. Start playing. It's okay. Start playing. Alright? You don't have to go and fix the character, do anything with the character, but just becoming aware of and observing the different characters and voices, we do learn to then improve the relationship with those parts of us. We start to give those parts of us more space. With more space becomes more opportunity to release, to open, to feel, to know, to become aware. And ultimately that's all we're learning to do here. There's no end goals we're trying to get to, right? It's my perception. We can create goals on our journey, but ultimately we're going to die and go back into the ether, and everything that we've accumulated will just disappear in the end. So, right? so understand that any goals you set for yourself ultimately ain't going to matter. Right? It's not going to matter. So what does matter? So what does continue beyond this life? And to me, that's where soul work comes in. That's why I do the work that I do, because I'm learning to feel, connect to, become aware of the subtler parts of my being that I know are beyond just this lifetime. Because when you get to that place of sensitivity, you know that you have arrived with certain things that you are working on from a karmic perspective in this particular lifetime. And that is more important than any transient goal of this incarnation. Completely. So that's where we can all get to in our sensitivity. Really understanding, seeing, feeling, and knowing, why am I here? Why am I really here? Why am I really here? In a greater epoch of time. That's more meaningful than making a bit of money. Right? Getting a nice house and a nice car. And yeah, maybe that's nice for certain periods of our life. I'm not dissing it, right? Because there is beauty in living in luxury. Right? There's beauty in having a sensory-filled life of existence and delight. Right? But let's not get caught up in it. Right? Maybe that's another character. The try harder, need harder, must fit in to the society character. I gotta be like this. I gotta do it this way because everybody else does it this way. I must conform like a robot. It's another character. Mr. or Mrs. I gotta fit in. So play with these characters, guys. I hope I've given you a few ideas about what I mean by the different voices or characters inside of us. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought in your own seeing of yourself as you move forward in exploring these voices. And again, we don't have to get frustrated with it. We just identify it. So we see, become aware. With awareness, then naturally the right decisions can be made. But we just start with awareness first. Okay, amazing. What a beautiful day in paradise it is. In Bali, you can maybe hear the sound of the waterfall down there. I haven't posted many videos the last couple of weeks because they've been doing building work next to my house and it's constant noise. I haven't been able to find time to sit in peace in my garden whilst there's been a lot of builders around. So hopefully in the coming week or two they'll slow down their work and I can record some more videos. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Sending my love from Bali, and I will post again soon. Okay, ciao ciao.